Hey, welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you're doing well. Today I thought we would talk about whether or not watches and watch collecting can be considered an investment. But before we get into that, if you wouldn't mind lightly tapping that like button and subscribing to the channel would be greatly appreciated. So when I approached the subject of whether or not a watch is an investment, I looked at the definition of an investment, and according to Investopedia, an investment is an asset or item acquired with the goal of generating income or appreciation. It's not consumed today, but used in the future to create wealth. It's the idea that an asset will provide income in the future or will later be sold at a higher price for a profit. It also went on to say that investments are not speculation. Speculation was defined as making informed decisions, capitalizing on market inefficiencies for short-term profit. And it said that ownership is not the goal of speculation. So the four things that I took out of reading the definition of an investment on Investopedia was: the first thing is that the goal is to generate income or appreciation. The second thing is that it is not consumed today, it is a long-term objective. The third is that it's sold at a higher price in the future. And the fourth is that it's not speculation. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run through those four things that make up an investment in our mind, the way in which we're going to define an investment for this video, and I'm going to see whether or not a watch matches that goal. So the first goal is to generate income or profit, or generate income or appreciation. Now when you think about watches can appreciate in value if you pick the right ones to own. So as an example, Tudor Day dates used to be very, very cheap. Now they're a lot more expensive. I know firsthand that Tudor Black Bays have appreciated a significant amount just over a year's time. And that shows that a watch can appreciate in value, which means I think it does meet the criteria of our first goal. It can generate income or appreciate. It can't really generate income unless you consider the joy that you get from wearing the watch as income. Perhaps you do, but it does appreciate in value, so it matches our first goal. The second goal is that it's not consumed today, it's a long-term objective. Now, the problem with saying a long-term objective is you have to kind of give your investment a time horizon. Anything beyond a certain amount of time would be considered long-term, anything shorter than that would be considered short-term. So, looking at some of the watches that you can own, I'm going to give the time horizon for a long-term investment as over a year's time. I'm doing this because I know that the Black Bay was I sourced 2 Black Bays for 2 clients of mine, and it took it less than the price that I had to source it at increased by like $500 in shorter than a year's time. So long term, I'm going to consider anything over a year's time. This is the only one where it's kind of hazy, right? So not consuming today would mean that you kind of just take the watch, set it in your safe, and it becomes a safe queen. But if you're going to end up wearing the watch, you are consuming it today. You're enjoying the watch's gears are moving, so it's being consumed as an asset on your wrist, right? So it depends on what your strategy is for this investment. What I would imagine is that if you're looking at watches as a straight investment, you're probably going to end up putting it in your safe and not thinking about it until you know that prices have fluctuated and that you can sell it for a higher profit. So if you're looking at it from that point of view, yes, it definitely meets that goal. The only thing is, sometimes when people are collecting watches, they think about the fact that they can buy this watch and it can become an investment for them, which means, let's say if someone buys a Rolex Submariner, you know that the Rolex Submariner really isn't going to dip in price anytime soon. It's probably going to stay pretty consistent. So they're probably going to wear it on their wrist, but they had that investment point of view in the back of their mind. So if they're looking at it from that point of view, it probably doesn't meet that goal. But for sake of argument, I'm just going to say it depends for this part of the definition. The third goal is that it's going to be sold at a higher price in the future. And this can happen, but you have to buy correctly. And in order to buy correctly, you have to make sure that you're doing research on the watches that you're going to be purchasing. Now, selling it at a higher price is obviously something that everyone wants to do. They don't want to buy something and it depreciate really, really quickly. So I know that a lot of people are buying, you know, limited edition watches. Anything Rolex will keep its value or appreciate in value. For example, the Rolex Kermit has skyrocketed in value just because of lack of supply of the watch. So these are all things that one should consider when looking at whether or not they're going to be buying these watches for an investment. And the third is that it's not speculation. Now, this really depends on your collecting style, right? So watches can appreciate, but they're not going to do that at an extreme rate because it's kind of hard to see a watch appreciate in value on the short term. There are certain references that will appreciate in value very, very quickly that you can buy as a new watch and then sell at even a higher price. I know this happens a lot with like Rolex Daytonas, is that you can buy it at market price from the Rolex jeweler and then sell it on the secondhand market for a lot more. Obviously, Rolex is kind of cracking down on people who are doing that because they don't want that to happen, because they're obviously missing out on that margin. So on the short term, it can happen, but it's hard to kind of speculate what watches are going to end up doing that over the short term. So for this one, I'm also going to say it depends. However, I don't think you can really speculate about watches. It's either a yes or a no. And for that reason, I think that watches can be an investment. However, you have to maintain a long-term horizon for the watch, and by this definition, you should not be consuming it today. You should be putting it away in a safe and leaving it. Now, for me, I like watch collecting. I know that there are pros and cons for investing in watches versus collecting watches, but these watches should be consumed. That they are watches that should be on your wrist. You should be enjoying them instead of just putting them away. However, watches can be seen as an investment if you purchase right and you do the research beforehand in order to meet these specific criteria and know what you're purchasing is going to appreciate in value. And obviously, you'll be able to sell at a higher price in the future. So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and like this video. And I hope you guys have a nice rest of your day.